Hello and welcome to Gavel. I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds. We're very excited to be back in the studio with our partners here at TV23 for the 5th installment of Gavel. This is a show about the criminal justice system in Cobb County, and our mission here is to educate and inform our citizens about a system that remains a mystery to many folks. As you may recall, over the last 4 episodes, we've taken a look at various systems or various courts within the Cobb criminal justice system, including taking a look at how a clerk's office works, how the probate court works, and last month we had an occasion to look at what happens if you happen to be a victim of a crime in Cobb County. In the future, we're going to be taking a look at subjects like jury duty or how probation works, subjects that may affect some of our citizens at some point during the course of their lives. But today we're going to take another in-depth look at one of our interesting courts within the Cobb criminal justice system, and that's the juvenile court. And to help us do that today, we're very honored to have as our guest Judge Jeff Hamby. Judge Hamby is a judge in the Cobb juvenile court system, and I know my staff has an occasion to work with Judge Hamby on a daily basis, and I can verify the fact that he runs an efficient courtroom. He's a fair judge, and we're very fortunate to have him as a judge in our county. Your Honor, let me tell you, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Gavel, and welcome today.
Thank you, Vic. Appreciate you. Appreciate you having me.
Judge, why don't we start at the beginning? Why don't you share with the viewers a little bit about your history and how you became a juvenile judge here in Cobb County?
Well, I'm a Cobb County boy. Grew up here. Family here, Mama Old Marietta, Daddy Old Campbell of Smyrna, Daddy's mom and daddy Campbell of Smyrna, Mama's mom and daddy, maternal grandparents, Old Marietta. I went to Fitzhugh-Lee Elementary School, 4th and 5th grade, Hollydale, 6th grade, and then of course back in the day when I was in high school, we didn't have no middle school, we didn't have TAP or anything like that. So when you hit 7th grade back in the day, you were at McEachern High School with seniors, and talk about some juvenile experience there. Okay, so McEachern High School, graduated there in '78, and went to got a degree at Georgia State University, Bachelor of Science degree in or political science, bachelor degree in political science rather. 82, and then in 85 got my law degree, and I think you were right behind me one year, maybe that year, because I remember you and I have been in school together for several years there at State. But class was founded, as you know, in September, I guess, of '82, and started in the founding class.
So you were in that original class, weren't you?
I was in the original class. Started practicing law here in Cobb in '85, and did right at 28 years, about 27 and a half years of private practice, mostly domestic stuff, divorce, custody, support, that kind of thing, and then took the bench on January 1 of 2013.
Well, Judge, let's start at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about what juvenile judges do and what type of cases juvenile courts hear on a daily basis. If you'll share that with our viewers,
yeah,
please.
Sure. We have jurisdiction over kids and families in the civil arena. On the civil side, when a dependency case is filed, formally deprivation under the old code, but when a dependency action is filed, we have jurisdiction over that case if there are children age 17 and down. Once a child hits age 18, we lose them in the civil side. In the criminal side, called delinquency calendars, delinquency hearings, we have those young men, young ladies up until they hit the age of 17, at which time they become an adult. There was a move at the last legislative session to consolidate and make it one age. For whatever reason, that did not happen. So we hear dependency cases. Those are cases where children are without a parent. They're abused or neglected and in need of court's protection, supervision. And then we hear some traffic matters out there. We have the 16-year-olds in traffic. We hear those cases. And then the delinquency cases, those are cases where a young person is alleged to have committed a criminal act. And we see all sorts of things. We see theft crimes, we see some shoplifting, we see residential burglaries are on the rise in this county, which is a scary thing. We see some robberies, we see school incidents, some fights at school. I've had 2 murder cases now in the year and 10 months I've been on the bench. And again, we have those kids at age 16 and down.
So you told us a little bit, and we've learned on some previous episodes of Gavel to Gavel the difference in criminal cases and civil cases, but it sounds as if the juvenile court literally hears both types of matters.
We do, and one of the things that I had planned to mention at some point today is the legislature has recently in the juvenile court gone to a one judge, one family system. So, for example, if a case comes in front of me and it's a dependency action, for example, involving the Department of Family and Children's Services, I will get that family, and then if they have children involved who later on are alleged to have committed a delinquent act, I'll have those cases as well. So once I get the Jones family or the Smith family, then I'll have them in the civil side and in the criminal side as well.
I guess that would make sense. It would help a judge learn a little bit about that family history and the dynamics of that family in order to hopefully keep a family together. I presume that's what the charge of the juvenile court would be, isn't it?
Our goal is always reunification. On the civil side, we're not in the business of taking kids from mamas and daddies. We're in the business of helping, offering services, offering counseling, therapy, drug and alcohol courses. We have full-time therapists on staff. We've got drug and alcohol counselors on staff. And our goal is to, when we see a family come in on the civil side anyway, our goal is to find a temporary placement where we can get the kids stable, keep them safe, while we're offering services to the parents. On the criminal side, we're looking at protecting the community. One of the things that I call it judge school. One of the things that they're stressing these days with judges, especially with young judges like myself, is let's learn the difference between, and let's differentiate rather between the child who scares us versus the child who just being a knucklehead, just out there doing stupid stuff. But those kids who scare us and make us fearful to go to sleep at night, those are the kids that we treat a little bit differently and use jail time versus those kids who are out just doing crazy stuff, putting things in socks and throwing them at cars or
being kids sometimes.
Just making mistakes that maybe I made, maybe you made.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about our court here in Cobb specifically. If you would, why don't you share with our viewers some numbers over there, how many juvenile judges there are, and just as a general rule, what's a day like in juvenile court? How does your day begin?
I could go on and take 30 minutes on that right there. I made some notes about statistics. Let me talk a little bit briefly about the size of the court.
Certainly.
It's humongous. When I got appointed, elected really by the Superior Court judges to serve, it was back in November of 12, and I went over there and I looked around and just tried to familiarize myself with it. We have 100. I didn't realize how big it was. There are 100, not counting bailiffs, sheriff's deputies, CASAs, court-appointed special advocates, guardian ad litems. We have 100, right at 100 full-time staff.
Wow.
It's enormous. There's been new renovation here on the square. We have two complete floors there, 100 folks. We have specialized probation officers. For example, our probation staff has drug and alcohol counselors, experts who deal with that. We've got gang POs. We've got probation officers who deal with gangs, and that's what they know, and that's their background, and that's what they're experienced at. Like I say, I took down some numbers. The latest statistics that I've got show about 3,800 youth per year coming through the juvenile court system, and that's once it hits a formal complaint. More than that initially, but that's once it hits a formal complaint. About 5,200 new cases per year hit the system. Now, understand that a civil case may come in with multiple children in the family. About 8,000 criminal offenses per year come through the court. We have 4 judges over there, Judge Juanita Stedman, Judge Joanne Elsey, Judge Jim Whitfield, and myself. We handle about 1,000 hearings a month, which is about 250 per judge per month. Talking a little bit more about some statistics that I found interesting, and I think your viewers would find interesting. About 60% of the caseload is delinquent. And that's delinquent charges, like I say, drug and alcohol charges, property crimes, public disturbances, weapons, thefts, burglaries, the 2 murder cases that I've seen.
That's the criminal side
That's the
of what you
criminal
do.
side, about 60%. Tuesdays and Thursdays are devoted, with 60% I need 2 days, and those are my criminal days, my delinquent days, that's what I do on those days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Anywhere between 16% and 18% dependency cases. I call them the DFACS cases, and those are the cases where we have a dependent child, again, who's been abused or neglected, needing protection, supervision from the court, protection really, those kids who are without a parent. Recently, we're seeing kids crossing the border. And, do we have a mom, do we have a dad here to protect them? No, we don't. A lot of those kids were fleeing gangs and threatened if they did not join gangs, then what's going to happen to you? Little Johnny, if you don't join our gang, they're scared. They're leaving at 13, 14, 15, running. They're by themselves and they're alone. And, we're seeing some of that now in Cobb County. About 12%, 13% of my caseload is traffic. Being the new guy on the block, I get the traffic court, okay? So I deal with those cases every Monday morning at 8:30. And a lot of those are really just inexperienced drivers, following too closely, resulting in an accident, things like that. They're doing knucklehead things, like I say, cutting donuts in the Publix parking lot, not realizing that we got cameras on the side taking pictures of them. And the manager comes in that morning and sees a bunch of donuts in the parking lot, and of course we get a license plate and make an arrest. Speak very briefly, and I know I'm way off topic and I'm not answering your question, but I think your viewers would be interested. About 8 to 9% are what we call status offenses. Now the law's changed in that area. Those are things that, if the young man or young lady were an adult, would not be a crime. Truancy, ungovernable, runaway, things like that, curfew violations, things like that. Typically, or prior to January 1, they were referred to as unrulies. And now the legislature has moved those from, to give you a sort of a quick synopsis, moved them from the criminal system to the civil system. They're now referred to as CHINS, Children in Need of Services, CHINS. And those are handled more through the Department of Family and Children's Services, really to give parents more accountability and to require that they keep the kids in line rather than having them run.
Well, listen, I know that there's been some changes in the juvenile law. What I want to do, Judge, is we're going to take a short break, and right after the break, I want to talk to you a little bit about those changes in the law, and I also want to talk about a program I think our viewers have probably heard of before, something similar to a Scared Straight program.
Okay.
So I ask you viewers, stay with us. So we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back on Gavel to Gavel. Thank you.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
Welcome back to Gavel. I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds, and we're very honored to have as our guest today Cobb Juvenile Judge Jeff Hamby. Your Honor, before we took our break, I mentioned a program that some of our viewers may have seen in the past called Scared Straight. Do we have anything similar to that in Cobb County that the juvenile judges run?
You know, the short answer is we really don't.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we do. The longer answer is we do. And situations where parents are calling the court and they call and they say, you know what, I don't want to take out formal charges against my kid. I don't want them arrested, but I'm scared. And you know, they're leaving late at night, they're hanging out with the wrong crowd, that kind of thing, and I'm at my wit's end, and what do I do? And we can offer, in the past I know we've offered a meeting with a staff member, for example. We'll say, okay, bring them on in, and we'll find us a mean-looking, imposing-looking staff member, and they'll sit down with the young man, young lady, and say, look, here's what's going to happen to you if the juvenile court gets up in your business and gets up in your life, okay, and starts messing with you. You might see a judge. You might do some jail time. You'll be handcuffed. You'll be locked down. You may go on probation. You'll have probation officers show up at your home unannounced, show up at your school unannounced, making sure you're there. You may be subject to random drug screens. We'll just basically be all over your life. And once the juvenile court gets in your life, that's what we're looking at. Now, a lot of times that works. And especially if they're young, you're looking at 11, 12, 13-year-old kid. And a lot of times that works. And so they go on home and they don't come back. If not, then we encourage a parent to come in and file a formal complaint. Open up a file. Let us take a look at it. We have a mediation program there at the court where if there are others involved, for example, issues of restitution, property damage, a property crime where I bust out your window and it's $200, we get with a neutral, and long before we ever see a judge, we try to work something out, work an agreement out. We send things what we call informal or to the diversion program. We say, all right, it's your first time in court, you got caught, you know, throwing some things at vehicles or whatever you were doing, and so therefore we're going to give you, we're going to allow you to go informal and put you in a diversion program. We're not going to press charges against you type thing. And they complete that within 6 months. Their record clears. Nothing ever hits the system. They never see a judge. Some more statistics that I looked up. About 50% of what comes into the clerk's office. Now again, if they see the staff member and go away and don't come back, we're not counting those. Once somebody comes into the clerk's office and deals with a more of a formal complaint, about 50% of the time those will hit the judge's office. We'll see those cases. Half the time they don't come in. If the child has a history, meaning they have a record or they've got a prior adjudication, we'll see them. They'll come in. If there's a serious offense, an armed robbery, an aggravated assault, we'll see those kids. Those kids come to us. They're not offered the informal or the diversion. If they were offered the diversion program and they did not successfully complete it, they got into some mess between then and you know, another offense within a 6-month period, we automatically see those. But about 20 to 25% of the kids who go through the diversion program end up coming back and are repeats. But that means 75% don't. They stay gone. Mm-hmm. So generally, we notice that it works well with the younger kids. What's troublesome, at least in my court, is once I see a 15 or 16-year-old with a 2-page history, I'm doing a lot of talking about the adult system. And I'll look at the file and I'll see when their birthday is. And I've got the mom and daddy, and sometimes I've got some family members and some relatives sitting there. And, you know, I turn my mic on and pull it right down to me, and I say, you know, Billy, let me tell you something. On January 3 of 2015, things change. And right now you're Billy Smith, and we're trying to help Billy Smith and Billy Smith's family. I said, you know, on that day, you go out and you do something foolish, and then I put my and I do it just like that into the mic. I say, your life changes, and you're no longer Billy Smith. You're number 426-341, and judge will lock you up for 10 years and forget your name in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad, but I try to tell them that, guys, you got to get this under control. And we got 8 months. We got 6 months to fix this, and let's get you fixed, man. Let's get you in the drug court. Let's get you some help. And,
let's talk a little bit about those few children who come through the juvenile system that simply don't learn that lesson that you all are trying to relate to them. If somebody commits a serious offense or is a repeat offender, do you have the authority literally to lock a child up based on criminal action?
Yeah, my maximum is 5 years, and you know, I've locked up a few for substantial periods of time. I sentenced one young man to 5 years, and then another one I sentenced to 3.5. Another one I can recall, residential burglary. It was his 6th residential burglary, and we try, and at some point, you know, I know that some viewers are probably saying, well, gee whiz, you know, they did it 2 or 3 times, and yeah, and this particular case I'm thinking of here, there was a group of about 7 or 8 of these little guys, they're young men, and come to find out there was a ringleader, and we sent him off, and after he goes off to jail for about 4 years, the other 7 or so, all of a sudden, man, their grades are skyrocketing, they're doing well, they're in extracurricular activities and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we have what's called the Department of Juvenile Justice. We can commit to the department. I can sentence them up to 5 years. In order to bring the Department of Juvenile Justice in and commit a young man, young lady, they've got to have 4 offenses. I've got to have a felony and 3 misdemeanors
before you can
before I've got that kind of authority.
Mm-hmm.
Here at the YDC, I can hold up to 30 days. Of course, there's ways, you know, around that. If I didn't want to put, for example, if you were in front of me and I didn't want to put a quote conviction or a criminal sentence on your record, then I would take the adjudication. In the adult system, of course, it's called the guilty plea. You would take your admission, I would adjudicate you, and then I would think on it a while. I would hold you in custody for 20-25 days and then bring you back and have the disposition hearing at that point. And knowing all along I'm probably going to release you at that time, but I give you a taste of the cell and let you see it. A lot of times I give somebody that kind of time, they don't want to go back. They realize they don't want to go back.
Judge, let's talk about something that most parents have feared raising children. I know you have children, as do I. When they turn 16, they get those driver's licenses, they get out on the roads of Cobb County. Let's say that someone commits some type of driving offense at that age. I think you mentioned to the viewers a moment ago that you all have the authority out there and you will actually hear those cases. Is that correct?
Yeah, they'll come in. Like I say, Monday mornings, 8:30, they come into traffic court. I will have anywhere from 15 to 25 to 30 on my docket every Monday morning. They'll come in. A lot of those are accidents, Vic. It's surprising. Of say 25 cases, 17, 18, 19 will be accidents involved, and it's just a matter of inexperience. That, you know, I cannot imagine a 16-year-old being allowed to do, and they're driving on I-285 in rush hour. I mean, can you imagine that?
Scary.
It's legal, of course. You know, that's the law. But you know, let's not talk to me about changing that law. But yeah, they come in. A lot of times what we'll do in traffic court is we will work some type of arrangement. They'll meet with the assistant solicitor, and we'll work some type of an arrangement whereby they will do some community service hours. 20, 24, 40 hours if it's a serious offense community service. They'll take a defensive driving course. Many of them have already done that through a driver's ed program or something like that. And then we'll fine them. But we won't put anything on their license if it's a following too closely or you know, running a stop sign or a speeding, say 8 to 10 miles an hour over the limit, that kind of thing. Reduce those down to what we call basic rules violations. Carry 0 points on your license. Generally, the insurance company don't find out about those things. They've helped the community out. They've gone to animal shelters, MUS ministries, you know, elderly shelters, homes, that kind of thing, hospice care, and they've helped folks. And that helps them, I think, more long term. By the time they're 20, 25, 30 years old, they're not going to forget that.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, they may have forgotten, points on the record. That
Paying
kind
a
of
little
thing.
penance
So,
for
yeah,
what they do.
yeah,
It's a
exactly,
great lesson.
Exactly.
One of the things, Judge, I know I noticed when I practiced law and had an occasion to be in juvenile court was it seems as if the goal out there, or one of the missions of the juvenile judges, is to make sure that parents get involved in their children's life. And I know you all have an occasion, particularly in these criminal hearings, to address your conversation not only to that young person but also to the parents. Is that a fair statement?
It is, and the parents are required to be there. It's difficult sometimes when we have a young man. I'd say 20-25% of the time, young man, young lady comes in, there's no mom or daddy there. They're in custody, the kid's in custody, they come in, the parents aren't there. If a parent's there, we let them know, look, it's up to you to be the parent. Be the parent. And in front of a lot of times we'll see them, the kids will come in and it's just not minding mom and daddy, wanting to run away, wanting to hang out with the wrong crowd, that kind of thing. And my lecture, sitting in front of mom and dad sitting there in front of the child, my lecture is, hey, do you think your mama loves you? Do you think they care about you? How come you're not listening to what they tell you? You go downstairs in the middle of the night and open up the refrigerator and you think the food fairy came the night before that or just put it in there? They're working hard and now they're losing time off of work to be in here because you're being a knucklehead once a week and keep coming back. And then I look at the parent and I say, look, if your child does ABC, I'm telling you it's your job to call the court and let us know. And that way you see the mom or dad can then enforce some rules at the house and the child believes or knows that it's up to the parent to call. And then the parent's not the bad guy, but see, Judge
Sure.
Hamby's the bad guy, which is the way it ought to be.
Judge, we're getting close to the end. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so. If you're looking at the youth of Cobb today, any advice, any statements you would tell them as we wrap up today's show?
As to the kids, I would say pick your friends wisely. Choose your friends, and make sure you're hanging out with the right crowd. And don't grow up too quick. Don't try to grow up too quick. You can take a poll in the courtroom of everybody over 30, 35 years old and say, how many of y'all of the 20 in here, how many of y'all would do this again and would go back and be a kid again if you could? And every single hand goes up. Be a kid. Be a kid.
Well, Judge, let me tell you, as I said as we started the show, my prosecutors are in your courtroom occasionally. I know what kind of job you do for the citizens of this county, and we're very blessed and fortunate to have you on the bench. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. We're very honored to have you as our guest.
Vic, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Judge.
Sir. Thank you.
And most of all, thank you to the viewers of Gavel to Gavel. We appreciate you tuning in today, and we'd ask that you stay with us in future episodes. Again, I'm your host, Cobb District Attorney Vic Reynolds. Thanks for watching, and be safe.
Learning how to kickflip 6 stairs takes determination. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
In 1977, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the US Open twice, 1 in 1.2 billion. The odds of him having a child diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn the signs of autism.